It was St. Greta's Popemobile, really, full to the brim, chock full of climate contraband.
World leaders are still trying to run away from their responsibilities.
Yeah. I think what we want to send is, the message we want to send is to say that we have had enough. And anyone else wants to ask them that question?
Is the party finally over for Greta Thunberg? I will be home for Christmas and then I will take a holiday break because you need to take a rest. Otherwise, you cannot do this all the time. This comes after the story made headlines. Greta Thunberg apologizes for, quote, against the wall remark, plans a break from climate activism. People were taking that line to mean against the wall, to be sort of the communist-style execution that you see in places like North Korea. But did she really say that? Before we get to that, I want to give you some backstory here on what led to this Greta stuff all happening. Welcome back to Andrew Says. I wouldn't lie to you, except for maybe this once. I'm here up in my igloo in Scandinavia. Maybe we don't even have them. I can't even say igloo properly. We all eat maple syrup all the time playing hockey. Taking a break, Greta, why? Because it seems the honeymoon phase is gone. People are now putting memes up about her all over the internet, tearing her apart, cutting her up to shreds. Here are a few examples that are very popular right now. Here's Greta on a boat with a bunch of things being pointed out to be made from oil. And yes, oil does account for a lot of this stuff, even your clothes, something maybe she hasn't thought of. You probably have seen this one of her on a train using some single-use plastics, the plastic from the bread and the knife there. There was even a meme about her with starving children outside, and people had to point out that that was fake because it's really hard to tell these days, you know? Or you may have even seen Greta in a tent with a single-use plastic bottle. How dare she? How dare you, Greta? Now, are these images ridiculous? Yes, they are, but Greta is still doing far better than the Bernie Sanderses, the AOCs, the advocates of the Green New Deal, flying around on their private jets with iPhones or yachts if you're Leonardo DiCaprio. But to her credit, she's taking electric trains, electric cars, emissions-free boats. At least she's doing that. But if you're going to go around the world telling people that they're horrible with no real actionable plan in place, going from country to country saying, how dare you and such, because it's a fraudulent cause where it's all about PR, in my opinion, and you're saying stuff but not actually doing anything, then the internet's going to rip you apart. I'm afraid that's the world we live in today in 2019. 2020, excuse me. This is not from back in time. I guess forward in time. I can't even keep up with Alex Jones. Now, the worst one I think that Greta's been caught with is from Rebel News. They went to this climate activism, I don't know if you want to call it an expo. It was in Madrid, Spain, and they found Greta's car, and they found a bunch of single-use plastics in it and plastic bags, and they showed it to people to see if they would change their mind on Greta. Here's quickly what I'm talking about.
What do you think about that?
I don't know what is the source of the photos. I'm afraid I cannot say anything.
If they were true, if they're real, and I can promise you they are, what do you think about them?
Well, nobody should use plastics in the first place, but I don't know what is the source, so I'm afraid I cannot really say.
I took it myself.
I want to believe that it's not Greta's car. I want to believe that it's not her, and I can't confirm it, so I will not talk about her.
Now, I'm sorry to say, but it was her car. As much as you didn't want to believe it, it was St. Greta's Popemobile, really, full to the brim, chock full of climate contraband.
Now that's a suspiciously odd amount of beans for anyone to be eating. Forget the plastic. What's with the beans that should be for no less than, 10 people? Hey guys, we're going on a road trip to Spain. What should we bring with us? Oh yeah, don't forget the 30 cans of beans, yeah? No one's ever said get that many beans. So she's eating from those chip bags using the plastic utensils, a lot of plastics in there. So don't get me wrong, Greta Thunberg is not a saint, and not all the criticisms of her are invalid to me. Not to mention, just the other day, she did get called out when she posted a photo of herself sitting on a train on the way to Germany or leaving Germany. It said, traveling on overcrowded trains through Germany, and I'm finally on my way home. home. It turns out that the train company didn't like her making a mockery of their services. They didn't like it too much, and in a response, here's what they said. Dear Greta, thanks for supporting us railroad workers in the fight against climate change. We were pleased that you were on the ICE 74, that's a cool sounding train, with us on Saturday with 100% green electricity. It would have been even nicer if you had also reported how friendly and competent you were looked after by our team at your seat in first class. So apparently the true story is that the rest of Greta's team was sitting in first class when she decided to sit down with her luggage and take this photo. Also, from what I've read, trains are often very crowded in Germany, so you can even buy tickets that are just sitting on the floor. Like, you don't have an assigned seat, you have a floor seat. But apparently they had first class seats and, gotta go with the photo op. So these back against the wall comments that she made sounds a little bit like she's calling for government officials to be lined up and Epsteined, I'll say, instead. Maybe just a little bit. Here's what the story says. Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old Swedish climate activist, apologized Saturday after telling a crowd of young supporters a day earlier, while speaking in English, that politicians should be, quote, against the wall. Critics allege that the remark delivered in Turin, Italy, meant she was advocating for violence against world leaders who dodge their responsibilities to fight climate change. We have to make sure they cannot do that, Thunberg told the crowd. We will make sure that we put them against the wall and that we'll have to do their job and to protect our futures. Now, to me, that sounds like a little bit of backtracking, doesn't it? You said something you kind of regret, you took things a little too far in your speech, and now you kind of want to walk it back to save face. I mean, people do these things where they see how far they can go with their rhetoric and saying what they really believe, and then when people push back on it, you kind of walk it back to a place that's more safer for you politically or I don't know, monetarily, I guess you could call it. Especially in politics, that happens. But I do say but here now. Having said all that, did you watch the video?
The COP25 meeting, which is happening in Madrid right now, is almost over. And we unfortunately probably already know the outcome. World leaders are still trying to run away from their responsibilities. But we have to make sure that they cannot do that. We will make sure that we put them against the wall and that they will have to do their job.
Now, for me, as a person who thinks all of this is fraudulent, that I think there's a group of people, including her parents, shepherding her around the world to get people to give money to the causes that they see fit, which is not necessarily a good thing, even if it is for green energies. I can't honestly sit here and be like, this little girl's threatening people. Look out for the little girl. She's calling for your heads. She's going to murder you. Now, here's an explanation, which is the rest of the article. I tried to get you a little bit there. Here's the rest of it. Thunberg later explained she was making literal translation from Swedish. She said the phrase in her native language means to hold people accountable and clarified that her worldwide school strike movement ought to remain a peaceful protest on climate change, saying, quote, yesterday I said we must hold our leaders accountable and unfortunately said put them against the wall. That's Swanglish. Now here comes my best Swedish accent. Att stölja nörgen ut vägen. I'll do that again. Att stölja nörgen mot vägen. To put somebody against the wall means to hold somebody accountable, she tweeted. That's what happens when you improvise speeches in a second language, but of course I apologize if anyone misunderstood this. I cannot express the fact that I, as well as the entire school strike movement, that's a terrible thing to hear, school strike movement, are against any possible form of violence. It goes without saying, but I say it anyways. That's the other thing. It's pretty unlikely that this child, not speaking in her native language, knows what putting people up against a wall means in English, unless we're talking about wall ball. Did you guys play wall ball as a kid? Throw the ball against the wall. If it hits you and you don't catch it, you're up against the wall, and Pat throws the tennis ball at you. Shout out to Pat from elementary school. The point is here, no matter how much you disagree with people, no matter how much you dislike them or dislike their politics, lying about them to further your agenda, which is what I feel is going on here with a bunch of the headlines. It doesn't help anyone, and it just makes you less trustworthy. And it makes coming to an agreement with the other side that much more difficult. It's what they do to Trump, it's what they've done to Kanye West, it's what the media does to a lot of people. And then for the people, whomever they are, who claim to be against this sort of thing, to turn around and do the exact same thing to Greta, where, in my opinion, she's clearly just saying corner people into their opinions and force them to do something about it, force these world leaders to actually do something about it, back them up against a wall so they have nowhere to run, not do what Kim Jong-un does to, like, his brothers. I think being misleading like that is a bad thing for everybody involved in news politics. Here's just a bunch of the headlines about people, what I think is dishonest headlines. It's a lie. It's a deep state coup. Greta is in on it, along with the deep state. She says she wants to kill you, and now they're saying what you heard isn't reality. It's all part of the Matrix, people. It's all part of the deep state propaganda. She is trying to kill you, people. Greta is putting atrazine in the water. She is turning the frogs gay. She did kill Epstein. Infowars.com/store. Now, if they want to put me up against a wall, they want to put an American patriot up against the wall. This is how you treat Americans.